Microsoft gets a lot of flack for not having enough good console exclusives, but I don't think it gets enough praise for the good exclusives that it does have. Meet Sunset Overdrive, an Xbox exclusive that includes bouncing on cars, grinding on power lines, and shooting mutants with teddy bear rocket launchers. It's a game that I don't think gets talked about nearly enough. It released in October of 2014 to mostly positive reviews, but was ultimately a victim of the Xbox One's early struggles, and the fact that it released around the same time as Destiny, the Master Chief Collection, Assassin's Creed Unity, Dragon Age Inquisition, and Grand Theft Auto V on the current console generation. These were all big name franchises, except for Destiny, which was highly anticipated, so they all overshadowed a new IP like Sunset Overdrive. And that's a real shame because Sunset Overdrive is a ton of fun to play. It was developed by Insomniac Games, who is known for titles such as Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, and the most recent Spider-Man game. It features many of the elements you would expect to find in an Insomniac game, including funny dialogue and wacky gameplay. Sunset Overdrive is meant to be a fun and relaxing gameplay experience that isn't too difficult and gives you the freedom to be as outrageous as you want. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, constantly making fun of both itself and pop culture, which I find very refreshing. The game's awesome soundtrack is filled with punk tracks that help give Sunset Overdrive its self-deprecating and carefree attitude. While it did receive some life when it was included in Xbox's Games with Gold in April of 2016 and when it was ported to PC in November of 2018, Sunset Overdrive is still largely unknown to many people. In an effort to fix this, I wanted to make this video to tell people why I think Sunset Overdrive is worth their time. Whether you've heard of this game before or not, I'm going to tell you what Sunset Overdrive is all about and why you should give it a try. If you learn anything from this video, it's that Sunset Overdrive is all about moving around. The game has you grinding, bouncing on objects, and running along walls, all for the sake of looking cool while traversing the city and engaging the hordes of enemies. These acrobatics are crucial to achieving objectives and pretty much staying alive. While the game may not be very difficult, if you stay on the ground for too long without moving, you can easily be overrun with enemies. The game takes place across all of Sunset City, which is basically designed to be a playground for you to have fun in. Almost everything in the game can be used to get around the city, from power lines, to umbrellas, to street dividers, to bushes and trees. The game is built so that you can get from one end of the city to the other without having to touch the ground if you so choose. You start the game with all the tools you need to get around, but you do acquire some new skills as the game progresses. These additional abilities include an air dash and a seismic slam that sees you launch yourself into the air after slamming the ground. These new abilities open up movement quite dramatically because they provide a lot more options for getting around faster and escaping bad situations. One of the features tied to the movement system is the style meter. This meter fills up the more you move around and perform different actions. Bouncing on the same object over and over or grinding on the same rail continuously will not fill the meter. You need to change up what you're doing and use a variety of objects to get your style up. The purpose of this meter is to unlock the use of special abilities called amps, which I'll cover a little later. Basically, the more style you have, the better the amps you can use. Combat is another big part of this game. Sunset Overdrive pits you against 3 factions of enemies, each with their own special units: the OD, Scabs, and Physco robots. You fight these groups with an arsenal of bizarre weapons ranging from a teddy bear rocket launcher to an assault rifle that shoots records to a sprinkler mascot that sprays acid. These weapons are acquired either through the main story or by purchasing them from the gun vendor. They can be leveled up by simply killing things with them, which increases stats such as ammo, blast radius, and power. Most of these guns are a lot of fun to use and are actually suited for certain enemies. Each gun will tell you how effective it is against different types of enemies, which is very helpful. As I said before, movement is an important part of combat. Most fights will be fought while grinding and bouncing on objects in order to avoid enemies. If you're worried about this affecting your ability to aim, don't worry. The hitboxes for enemies are very forgiving, and you have the ability to slow down while grinding to better aim your weapons. Enemies will sometimes try to stop you from bouncing on surfaces or grinding on objects, so it is important to pay attention to where you're going. The biggest combat challenges in the game are the boss battles. There are several different bosses that you'll fight throughout the game, each one more bizarre than the last. They require you to make use of various different traversal techniques in order to defeat them, along with some good old-fashioned gunfire. These fights are actually a highlight of the game for me, mainly due to their added challenges and their usually amusing banter. There are 2 systems in Sunset Overdrive that affect your abilities and attributes: amps and overdrives. Amps are special abilities you can add to weapons and to yourself. Some examples include causing an explosion when you bounce on objects, stunning enemies when you shoot them, or turning enemies into explosives when you kill them. There are some pretty funny and powerful amps which can only be activated if you have enough style. You can equip 1 melee amp, 1 dive bomb amp, 2 hero amps, and 1 epic amp at a time, each type unlocking at different levels of style. Each weapon can only have 1 weapon amp applied at a time, and they can only be applied when the gun reaches level 2. Overdrives, on the other hand, affect your character's attributes. You are awarded with overdrive badges for performing actions repeatedly in the game. If you grind enough, you'll earn a grinding badge. If you kill enough OD, you'll earn an OD badge. These badges allow you to unlock and upgrade buffs called overdrives. These can increase the amount of damage you do with certain weapons or increase the amount of style you earn from certain actions, among other things. You can equip 6 at any given time, mixing any combination of buffs you want. It's a system that rewards you for playing the way you want to play. The last 2 features I'll talk about before getting into the story and quests are the collectibles and appearance options. There are 5 main collectibles in the game: toilet paper, dirty shoes, fizzy balloons, security cameras, and overcharge signs. There are 150 of each item in the game, and each can be used to purchase new amps or upgrades for amps. They are fairly easy to spot, but if you are having trouble finding them, you can purchase maps for different sections of the city, which tell you where all the collectibles are. There are a few other collectibles you can find, but there aren't as many of them and they don't do as much. In terms of appearance options, there is a wide selection of clothing and facial options that you can choose from. There are some really great options here that can be mixed and matched for some pretty hilarious looks. It's this kind of creativity and freedom that makes Sunset Overdrive so unique and interesting. Between the appearance options, amps, and overdrives, you can pretty much craft your perfect character. Now that we've covered the basics of Sunset Overdrive, let's talk about the story and quests. The story in Sunset Overdrive revolves around an energy drink called Overcharge. The game starts off with a pre-release party for Overcharge taking place in Sunset City. Everything seems fine until people start transforming into orange mutants called OD, or Overcharge drinkers. This leads to widespread chaos throughout the city as thousands of people transform and start killing. Your character escapes from the pre-release event and basically holds up in their apartment for a couple weeks before being forced to leave. You discover that Fizco, the company who created Overcharge, didn't do proper testing on their drink, which caused the mutations to happen. In an effort to cover up their mistake, Fizco seals off the city from the rest of the world. Your mission is to find a way out of the city. Along the way, you'll meet a diverse group of survivors that you'll work with to try and escape. There's a group of preppy rich students, an adult scout troop, and a bunch of LARPers, to name a few. While the story I just described may sound grim, I promise you that it's anything but. The characters in this game are wacky and eccentric, trying to make the best of a bad situation. Some of the quests you go on are so absurd and entertaining, you almost forget that it's supposed to be the end of the world. Everything has a very colorful and cartoonish coding that livens things up and makes the apocalypse fun, or as one character puts it, a fun apocalypse. Many of the quests in this game are the same at heart. Go fetch this, go kill that, etc. However, while there may not be a diversity of quest types, each quest scenario is unique and entertaining in its own way. One quest has you roasting hundreds of pigeons to feed a sick king, while another has you fighting a roller coaster with a triceratops head. On top of that, the banter between characters during missions and cutscenes is really well done, and usually funny enough for at least a smile if not a good chuckle. Side quests are generally just as bizarre as the main quests. One has you help a hobo find a new home, and another has you embark on an epic RPG adventure. They are a lot of fun and help flesh out the world and some of its characters a little bit. Both side quests and main quests reward you with overcharge cans and money. Overcharge cans are used to purchase new guns, refill your ammo, and buy maps for collectibles, while money is used to buy new appearance options. These quests can also reward you with new customization options and traps for the Night Defense Challenge, while some main quests will reward you with new weapons. Speaking of the Night Defense Challenge, one of the missions you'll have during the main quest involves protecting vats of overcharge. These vats are used by a scientist named Floyd to create new amps out of overcharge. While he is cooking up these new amps, you'll need to defend the vats from the OD, who are attracted to overcharge. If you successfully defend them, you will be rewarded with new amps. Once you complete the missions in the main quest, you will be able to retry them as many times as you like to get as high a score as possible. In fact, you can actually retry any mission you've already completed if you so choose. In addition to the main quest, side quests, and Night Defense Challenge, there are other optional challenges for you to complete. These include traversal challenges, weapon challenges, and challenges where you smash things as fast as you can, in addition to a couple others. There's a leaderboard for all of these challenges so you can see how you stack up against other people. They're a lot of fun to do, and a great diversion if you're looking to mix things up gameplay-wise. The only other mode to talk about is Chaos Squad. This is Sunset Overdrive's multiplayer mode, which sees teams of up to 8 compete in various objectives that eventually culminate in a night defense mission. Completing matches rewards you with different items, including overcharge cans, cash, and amp upgrades that can be used in single player. You are allowed to bring your weapons and stats from your campaign and use them in multiplayer, which is a nice feature. Unfortunately, this mode was not ported over to PC, so you can only play it if you have the game on Xbox. Overall, Chaos Squad is a nice change of pace if you're looking to have some fun with friends while still getting that Sunset Overdrive experience. Now that you have an idea for what Sunset Overdrive is all about, let me tell you why I think you should play it. The selling points for Sunset Overdrive are its movement mechanics, combat, and personality. You will spend the vast majority of your time in this game moving around and shooting bad guys. These mechanics need to be consistently enjoyable in order for this game to hold up, which they are. Moving around the city is very easy to learn and a ton of fun to do. You're always on the lookout for new things to grind on or objects to bounce on, and for no other reason than that it's just fun. There's actually fast travel in the game, but I barely used it because I enjoyed moving around the city so much. The variety of weapons and enemy types also kept combat consistently enjoyable. It's extremely satisfying blowing up a group of OD, or setting enemies on fire, or bashing them with a baseball bat. You're essentially a one-man army raining down fire on your enemies, and really, who doesn't love doing that? As I mentioned before, this is not a very difficult game, which also makes it very appealing. Gun hitboxes are very forgiving, as is traversal during missions. If you fall off of a tall building during free roam, that's on you. But if you fall off during a mission, you will actually fall into a portal that will transport you very near to the spot where you fell. The first time this happened to me, my character actually broke the fourth wall and thanked the developers for not making him start from the beginning. Even dying is fairly forgiving. You usually respawn in a pretty awesome way and can pick up where you left off almost immediately. It's a game that was designed for you to simply have fun, which helps it stand out from a lot of other games. Sunset Overdrive's personality is also a big selling point. Your character is constantly breaking the fourth wall to make fun of the game or make some pop culture reference. At one point you retrieve some very expensive water for a character so that they will help you out. When you give it to them, a commercial starts playing for the water claiming how pure and awesome it is, then proceeding to list all the chemicals and other garbage it actually has. Another scene has your character comment on how weird it's going to be when the cutscene ends and the NPC you were talking to is just gone. It's moments like these that really help establish the game's identity and self-deprecating humor. The punk soundtrack and the variety of colorful customization options also help drive the game's personality. Sunset Overdrive is meant to be a fun, wild, and carefree game, and this freedom to express yourself really helps drive that feeling home. There's just something so liberating about bashing in an enemy's face dressed like a fancy pumpkin. Overall, Sunset Overdrive is a blast to play from start to finish. Between the excellent movement mechanics, the engaging combat, and the unique and spunky personality, the game is truly one of a kind. If you're looking for a laid-back experience where you get to feel like a punk superhero in your own comic book, then this is the game for you. At $20 on both Steam and the Xbox Store, Sunset Overdrive is well worth the price of admission. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a city to save.